Have you ever feared that your faith might fail? Have you ever worried you might not be able to hold out or hold on in the long journey of the Christian life that's fraught with suffering? Robert Harkness was a gifted Australian pianist, and he traveled the world with the famous evangelist R.A. Torrey in the 1800s. One night in Canada at an evangelistic rally, afterwards he had a chance to speak with a teenage young man who confessed to the musician that he feared he might not be able to hold out amid the various trials and temptations that might come his way. That young convert in Canada was not wrong to doubt his own ability to hold out and hold on. But what the young man did not yet realize was deep in his soul that our perseverance in the faith is never simply left to ourselves. And it is a perseverance that's not simply from our own proneness to wander, which exists, but it's also a perseverance that involves the strength to hold up against the attacks of the wicked one. Did not Jesus teach us to pray in the Lord's Prayer and deliver us from the evil one? Did not Jesus ask his Father on the night before he died in John 17:15, I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one? Did not the Apostle Paul say in 2 Thessalonians 3:3 that the Lord will guard you against the evil one? Jude celebrates God's keeping power in his beloved doxology when he says, now to him who is able to keep you from stumbling and to present you blameless before the presence of his glory with great joy. I recently learned that Jeff Saunders had that very verse tattooed on his arm as a constant reminder that God will hold him fast. So too, after his conversation with that Canadian teen, Harkness wanted to remind all Christians to have the sweet truth of God's preserving power tattooed within our souls. He contacted his friend and lyricist Ada Habershon, who wrote the lyrics for When I Fear My Faith Will Fail. And Harkness put it to music. Habershon intended for her hymn to echo the truth and the beauty of the 149th Psalm. She said, the Lord takes pleasure in his people. Those he saves are his delight. So he will hold them fast. 1 century later, an American worship pastor named Matt Merker was going through an extremely trying season in his life, and a congregant gave him the lyrics to that song. Merker found fresh hope and comfort in the song's message. He added a third verse and he put new music behind it. Keith and Kristen Getty later popularized that song, which we just sang, assuring us of God's strong hold upon our lives no matter what may come. It is a worship song that leads into Peter's message from 1 Peter 4:12 through 19 about how we shall thus suffer. Dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come on you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice inasmuch as you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed. If you are insulted because of the name of Christ, you are blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests on you. If you suffer, it should not be as a murderer or thief or any other kind of criminal or even as a meddler. However, if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but praise God that you bear that name. For it is time for judgment to begin with God's household. And if it begins with us, what will the outcome be for those who do not obey the gospel of God? And if it is hard for the righteous to be saved, what will become of the ungodly and the sinner? So then those who suffer according to God's will should commit themselves to their faithful Creator and continue to do good. Peter first says, do not be surprised by our suffering. The apostle had just concluded verse 11 with a benediction about how in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. And he follows that central truth by returning his readers' attention to the reality of suffering. Peter wants them to know that even amid our sufferings, perhaps especially in our sufferings, God will be glorified in us through the Christ with whom we identify in baptism. Do you recall the conversation that Jesus had with his disciples, James and John, when they asked to sit at the right hand in his coming kingdom? Mark, who was the penman for Peter, writes in chapter 10, verses 38 to 40, you do not know what you're asking, Jesus said. Can you drink the cup I drink or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, you will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with. But to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared. Among other truths, Jesus is telling these two disciples, and henceforth every disciple, that they should not be surprised to be baptized with him into suffering amid this temporal life. It seems then that Peter is returning once again to how he had begun his letter in chapter 1 and verse 6 about the suffering of various trials. And so it's not hard to imagine that he's mentioning here in verse 12 a specific fiery ordeal that the dispersed believers were suffering. They would know what it was, even if we don't know exactly what it was. What we are meant to know specifically is that we should not be surprised whenever trials come. Our trials might be seasons in life where we lack a sense of provision, our position. They might be when we feel the pangs of stress and solitude. Take heart, dear Christian. You are yet blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. He shall hold you fast. Our trials might be times when we become victims of verbal or physical persecutions because of our convictions. Take heart, dear Christian. You are yet blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. He shall hold you fast. Our trials might be times when we must walk through seasons in which those we love suffer before our very eyes, whether physically or mentally or both. Take heart, dear Christian. You are yet blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. He shall hold you fast. Our trials might involve the darkest of seasons when it feels as if we are under the heavy assaults of Satan himself, who prowls about seeking to devour us. Take heart, Dear Christian, you are yet blessed, for the Spirit of glory and of God rests upon you. He shall hold you fast. Having said all this, I know in these seasons and times of our lives, we might think it's strange that the Lord is in fact holding us. It is not beyond reason that we might struggle with God and his care for us when these fiery ordeals take shape. Like Ada Haberson, Mary Stevenson wrote a song during such times to minister to our hearts. I think most of you are familiar with it. You probably have heard it before. It's called Footprints in the Sand. One night I dreamed I was walking along the beach with the Lord. Many scenes from my life flashed across the sky, and each scene I noticed footprints in the sand. Sometimes there were 2 sets of footprints. Other times there were 1 set of footprints. This bothered me because I noticed that during the low periods of my life when I was suffering from anguish, sorrow, or defeat, I could see only 1 set of footprints. So I said to the Lord, you promised me, Lord, that if I followed you, you would walk with me always. But I have noticed that during the most trying periods of my life, there have only been 1 set of footprints in the sand. Why, when I needed you most, have you not been there for me? And the Lord replied, the times when you have seen only 1 set of footprints, dear child, that is when I carried you. Amen. Amid the suffering, God shall hold you fast. Peter's next point, by implication, tells us not to be the cause of our suffering. Contextually, Peter is telling the Christian, even amid times of extreme political mistreatment, not to respond with violence or theft or any other forms of criminality. Break it down like this. When violence is taken against you or against the faith family, don't respond as Moses did in Exodus 3:11 and 12 when he killed the Egyptian. When good things are withheld from you because of your faith, don't steal. Well, if you're anything like me, you like Robin Hood, you like the principle of stealing from the rich to give to the poor, but it's not a biblical principle. Paul says in Ephesians 4:28, anyone who's been stealing must steal no longer. Murder and theft, albeit not the only form of criminality, would seem to be our natural response to harsh governmental persecution. But the movements of civil rights activists like Gandhi, who wasn't even a Christian, and Martin Luther King Jr., borrowed from the instruction of Jesus himself. So the word that our Bibles translate as meddler means not to interfere with the role that's not our own. It carries with it the notion of submission to those who God has placed in positions of authority, even if those individuals are not someone we would ever lend our support to. So I, for one, think the fiery trials that widely beset the church of Peter's time came as a result of the increasing persecution that was emerging from the Roman Empire and its local provincial governance. Although Christianity initially emerged as a small Jewish movement in first century Judea, it quickly spread, and the church grew across various territories at a pace that put it at odds with the well-established Roman imperial cult. If you are suffering at their hands, Peter says, do not let it be for justifiable reasons. Now, this does not mean we could not extend this verse's application beyond how we should or should not respond to governmental persecution. we should not, as Proverbs 5:22 says about the wicked, let the cords of sin ever hold us fast. And no doubt we can still struggle with the principles of murder and theft, for we know that they extend beyond mere physical acts. We know from Christ's teachings on the Sermon on the Mount to look deeper within. Murder in the heart consists of anger and hatred and bitterness. Theft in the heart consists of greed and envy. Do not let the spirit of murder or theft or other sinful forms ever hold us fast. Do not let things like drinking or drugs, whether recreational or prescription, become something that holds us fast. Plus, neither should we let the practice of meddling in the affairs of others become a spirit that holds us fast. Think of something like gossip. Eliminate it. And and in the church, we have our own way of gossiping, don't we? Let's remember to pray for so-and-so, because that he's been doing stuff he shouldn't be doing. It's the kind of thing that we need to protect our hearts from. An ungodly attitude, ungodly addictions, ungodly practices. All of those things, when they grip us, they can hold us fast and they can lead to suffering that we actually experience or that someone else experiences because of us. Let that not be so. Peter finally says, do not be ashamed for our suffering in Christ. The apostle teaches in verses 16 to 18 that not only can Christians expect to suffer in this present life, we might seldom taste salvation from this world's judgment. And if that's true of us, if it's true of us that we as the church might experience judgment now, what will yet become of the unjust at the time of God's judgment? Around 400 AD, a monk named Telemachus felt God calling him to preach against the corruption of the Roman gladiatorial games. And as he taught outside the gates about the immorality of their violence, no one paid him any mind, so he opted for a different solution. So when the games opened and the crowds filled the amphitheater, Telemachus entered with them. And then as the combatants entered the bloody contest, he leapt into the arena and he declared, in the name of God, such brutality must come to an end. History reports two possibilities as to what happened. One, the gladiators paused, looked at him, killed him, and then continued in battle against one another. Or those who were in the stands of the Colosseum picked up loose stones and stoned him to death. Either way, Telemachus was slain over his concern for the sanctity of human life. And either way, on the surface, people might say that his mission, his protest, his ministry failed miserably. But although Telemachus died that day, his message did not. It actually took root, and it began. And not too long after, those games came to an end. Shortly thereafter, even, in God's providence, the Roman Empire would also begin to crumble. Here's the thing. Regardless the cause for our suffering, whether at the hands of the unjust or because of our own sin, or simply because we live in a fallen world. The Apostle Peter says to you, church, our God is faithful. Amen. In the immediate aftermath of the terroristic events of 9/11, Matt Redman wrote the song that we started our service with. Blessed be your name. And I'm sure maybe you caught on that he borrowed from Job 121 in writing that song. Redman would say this: it struck me how little a vocabulary we have in church worship music to respond appropriately amid dark times of our lives. We all face seasons of pain and unease. And in those times, we need to find our voice before God in the same way that Job did. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In other words, even in the desert places, even in the wildernesses, even in the roads marked with suffering, because we bear the name of Jesus Christ, the one who died, the one who is risen, and the one who shall come again, we know that we shall be held fast. I want to conclude this morning sermon with a video clip that's a bit longer than what I would normally share on a Sunday morning, but it powerfully bears witness to the testimony of those who cling to the faithfulness of their Creator and their Redeemer in times of suffering. I pray that it will serve for you the same encouragement that it has served for me multiple times. And as the video concludes, I'm going to ask that we close our service out today in a prayer through song about the love that will not let us go, even amid the fieriest trials of our lives. And I know that some of you are walking through those seasons right now. Be encouraged. He shall hold you fast.
Dear Elliot, right now you are 2 months from being born. We just found out that you have trisomy 18, also called Edwards syndrome. Doctors tell us that you won't likely make it to birth. Your mom and I are praying against that. We're praying for healing. We're praying for nothing less than a miracle. You're our first child, and the day of your birth couldn't come sooner. Dear Elliot, you were born today weighing in at 6 pounds. You are already a miracle to us. Your mom is doing well, and it looks like we'll be hanging out here at the hospital a little longer. Dear Elliot, today you turned 11 days old. We are so proud of you. Today we celebrated your 11th birthday. In fact, we do that every day at 4:59, the time you were born. Dear Elliot, we've been home for a week now, so that's why you don't see your nurses anymore. It's great to have you home. Today I think we'll pack up everything and take our first venture out for coffee. Dear Elliot, I don't know if you've noticed, but you're connected to some tubes. The doctors say we have to keep these in so you can get oxygen to breathe. You are also fed through a feeding tube. We feed you every 3 hours, and it takes an hour and a half to do it. We've loved learning how to best take care of you. We love it. Lots of people email, call, and send cards on your behalf. You're well loved. It's 11 at night right now, and my feeding shift has just begun. Mom is asleep, and the best part of my day has begun. My shift ends around 4:45 a.m. when your mom takes over. She cherishes her mornings with her boy. Today you turn 1 month old. I didn't know if I'd ever get to say that. To top off the day, 20 friends showed up at the door for a true surprise birthday party for you. They sang, brought balloons, and a birthday cake. It was beautiful chaos. At 2 a.m. this morning, your feeding tube came out. We had been warned this may happen eventually. We quickly realized we did not have a stethoscope, which was necessary to replace the tube. Since our neighbor was a nurse, I went ahead and knocked on their door at 2:30 a.m. They found their stethoscope and your mom went to it. After much wrestling, praying, and your tears, the tube was down, and you were able to feed. Just so you know, your mom is my hero. Dear Elliot, you now weigh 7 pounds 3 ounces. You're growing and your food has been bumped up because of your good appetite. You continue to find new ways to steal our hearts. Dear Elliot, today marks 2 months of your life. Your mom and I are so thankful we know you. We know your face, your noises. We know that bath time and massage are your favorite daily activity. You finally learned how to suck your thumb by yourself. Because of Trisomy 18, you were born with clenched fists, and being able to do this is actually quite difficult. Way to go, son. Dear Elliot, we celebrate your birthday every day with a picture. Lately, we've tried to get a bit more creative. Dear Elliot, I realize you can get frustrated with your tubes and your frequent congestion. Please know that your mom and I are doing everything we can to make you comfortable. Dear Elliot, well, you tipped the scales today at 8 pounds 14 ounces. Quite an accomplishment. You also have managed to grow a pretty decent mullet. Dear Elliot, we all got to go to a reunion at the hospital. I've never seen your mom more happy. The joy she felt getting to show off her son can't be described with words. In fact, she compared it to the way a mother would feel when her son becomes president or wins a Heisman or develops a cure for cancer. The logic of medicine says you shouldn't be alive, but you are. You are such a fighter. Dear Elliot, you have now passed the 3-month mark. You also got your first cordless pictures taken today. No feeding tube, oxygen, or stickers. This was no small accomplishment, but we got it done. Have I told you lately that we are so proud of you? Dear Elliot, today you went to be with Jesus. An underdeveloped lung, a heart with a hole in it, and DNA that placed faulty information into each and every cell of your body could not stop God from revealing himself through a child who never uttered a word. Not a pulpit, not a slick presentation, not a best-selling book, but a 6-pound boy with Trisomy 18. God found great pleasure to take a lowly thing in the eyes of the world and show truth. At your funeral, we released 99 balloons, each balloon representing a day of your life. How beautiful it was to watch, how quickly they were gone. And so today, we celebrate. Elliot, you are well, and although we miss you more than we can express, we're only separated from you by our time left on earth. See you soon, son, Mom and Dad.